into it. Stacy and Holly, thank you for joining tonight on the 614 podcast to have a conversation about dating and singleness, the never-ending topic, the important topic. We're in a context in our church where there are lots of people who are young, looking, and wondering. So why don't you guys introduce yourself very briefly and tell us a bit about why you have a heart for this topic?
Sure. So Stacy Woodford, I'm married to Holly Woodford. We're the site pastors at the 614 Dublin site. We've been on eldership for how many years now? 2, 3? Yeah, it seems like it's gone really fast. I know. You were there right when we started. But good. Happy to be on the podcast. I feel great to finally make it on.
Yeah, as you said, my name's Holly, and this is my favorite topic. I love talking about this. One of my favorite things to do is get to with young women and talk about dating. I think that this season of singleness and dating and now marriage in my own life has just been pivotal and really important. And I think there's just a lot in it that, just helps us as followers of Christ. And a lot of pivotal things within big decisions in that reflect on your life. So I love talking about it.
It's a real significant time to set in priorities that really last the rest of your life. And it's just a critical time. It's a critical thing to navigate with the Lord. So it's just it's impactful. So you have to give it real serious thought, attention, and consideration.
Yeah, that's so good. I've spent a lot of time with you guys over the years. Stacy, we spent a lot of time together, me, you, and Noah. And if there's something that I know about you guys care a lot about helping people steward their life well, whether it's financially, physically, emotionally, relationally, in the church, whatever it is. And sometimes what I've seen with the topic of singleness is that the main pursuit of singleness is to get out of it. Whatever it takes to get out of it, whether all of your thoughts are consumed with dating or marriage, whether you're single and just completely discontent. I want to take a few minutes and chat about stewarding singleness well. And I know it's a very broad question and a broad idea, but you guys have spent a lot of time with people who are single in that season of life, people who are dating, people who are engaged, people who are married. You've seen the whole gamut. So what are some thoughts that you guys have around stewarding singleness well, and maybe even a bigger picture? How do you just steward your life well while you're single?
We also have been single before, so it's
that is true.
It's true. It doesn't feel like that long ago. Why don't you start, Holly? What do you think?
You start. I'm going to build off of it because I know I get to hear your spiel all the time at our dinner table, and so I know what you're going to say. And it's so good that I want you to go.
And young people we do happen to have a lot of people that are in this stage of life in our lives.
Yeah.
And so
we love it. It's our favorite,
and it is fun. It's exciting to just seeing people's journey from the beginning and from the beginning, people married. But before that, being single and everything else. Okay, so stewarding singleness well, I typically think about it as a small part of just stewarding your life well, right? And this is really what your question is. In any given season of life, whatever you are given to or whatever you're pursuing, whatever is right in front of you, and you can begin to break that down into all the little parts of your life, have to be learned to you have to learn to manage them well, right? To be responsible, to take care of all that God has given you. And he's given us different gifts and talents. He's placed us here and us in Columbus, wherever city he puts you in, you're there pursuing something and making sure that you learn how to be responsible with all that God has given you, right? He's given us bodies. He's given us, like I said, gifts and talents, dreams and desires, and really taking the time to intentionally explore what it is he's created you to do and how he's kind of reflecting himself on the world is something that you should learn to do in your life generally, but especially in your time of being single.
Yeah. So how do you do that though? It feels like a big overarching thought of hey, what did God design you to do? That can almost feel paralyzing in the magnitude of that. So what are some rhythms or some practices or things that people can put in their life that actually help them decide like, okay, this is what God is inviting me into. This is where he's taking me.
I think at the very bottom of it is you have to get involved in a local church. Like you have to be, you have to learn to cultivate like good community around you, right? You're going to cultivate good community. If you're in school, among your classmates, if you're at work, among your colleagues, wherever you're living, just like around your neighbors. But particularly when you're single, when you're younger, like a lot of people are in our lives, you have to be rooted in a local church so that other people can see you and begin to help call out what is in you. You know what I mean? Like during that time period where, you and Cece had just started dating, it was cool to see the areas that you really excelled in, right? There were some things that you just, and maybe I don't think you realized how much you excelled in empathy for people, or like being really, what is it, engaged, like pastoral, caring for people's souls, like, like you're doing now. That was evident, I think, more than you realized, when I met you in the beginning, right? Before you ever even started dating CC. Being in a place where someone can call that out of you and help you kind of navigate that and grow in it and find resources and books and all that, or hear preaching, whatever, that's going to help guide you in the specific ways, or guide you in finding out the specific ways that God has formed you. So number one, like definitely like get involved in a local church, cultivate good community around you, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah. I just want to add on general health. I think when we're stewarding our lives well, and this goes for single, married or not, it just goes for followers of Jesus. I think there's so many different areas, and these things seem kind of basic, but I think they're profound. It's our physical health, it's sleep, it's diet, it's exercise, it's our financial health, it's stick to a budget, have a budget, spend less than you make. It is our spiritual health, right? It's being in that local community, it's spending time with Jesus. It's all these things. And I think that when we're overall a healthy person, we are stewarding our lives most well for Jesus. And that way he's going to be able to use us however, because we are healthy and we're not being held back because of financial troubles or because our body is keeping us back. If we can control it, I think that only helps if you are in a position to begin a relationship. Then you're naturally in a spot where you have a vision for your life, you're building something. And so it's fun to put that together with someone. Now, I think you should do that regardless of if that's the end result or not, but I don't think it hurts.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're going to need to find out who you are and how God's made you somehow, no matter what, whether you get married or whatever. So it's like, use the time now while, you have more time at that point in your life than any other time. So it's like, try stuff. Go like to find out what interests you. I guess that's a little more practical. Like, what are you generally interested in that maybe everyone else in your life is not? Begin to explore those things and go explore. Find it's not like a hobbyist group, but just like there are other people that have that in your life or around. Like again, it's cultivating good community. It's like cultivating the soil that you're going to grow in your life with.
And that's why if you are trying to meet someone, that's a natural place where you're going to meet people that you're aligned with. So that's obviously why church is a great place. But also like if you're really into rock climbing, then like maybe you'll meet some sweet people like at the rock climbing gym that love Jesus. It's just like getting yourself in spaces where you are excelling to be your best. You're going to be around people that are similar, which will only help your odds of dating if that's your goal.
Yeah, that's so good. You guys said so much right there. So there's a theme that I kind of want to touch on. You mentioned this idea of submitting yourself to a church, investing, diving in. Holly, you talked about this idea of finances, your health, your resources, and taking care of, in a sense, what's in your hands. So when it comes to the local church and taking care of the things that are before you, what do you guys think about what it looks like for someone in singleness to submit themselves to leaders? Something that I've seen is that one, in Gen Z, authority is an idea. It's not anything else. It's just a good idea. Not many people take advantage of it, and definitely not seeing people running towards leadership in times of need or crisis. They often run to friends or social media. But I'm curious, what have you guys experienced and what encouragement might you have when it comes to people, especially in seasons of singleness or a lifelong of singleness, whatever the Lord calls them to submit themselves to leaders, to have people, in a sense, oversight or shepherding that part of their life?
Yeah, I think one of the most pivotal things in our life has been that we've surrounded ourselves with wise and mature people in a couple different life stages ahead of us. And I think that's how, and we have just gone to them with all of our questions and like remained open. So I think it's so important to not think that we have it all figured out, but to surround yourself with people. And there's so many people to choose from, right? So our kind of framework has been to look at people's lives and see the fruit of it and see like, okay, this is who we want to be like in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
Yeah, right.
And so we just get near them, get very proximate, ask a ton of questions, and not only questions about them, but also remain open to feedback they have for us. Like, what do you see in our life? How can we, improve? And then you're walking those steps throughout, whether it's like for us, it's been like buying a house or parenting or those things. And then you're walking in, but it's important, I think, to remain open to any correction that they might have.
So did you invite that initially, or is that something that people initially called out of you, a correction or an encouragement? Did you have to initially prompt that of like, hey, I'm open and welcome to this? Or was it something that you expected of your leaders as you submitted to them?
I think it's definitely something that we've invited. I think that's an approach that will get you the most fruit, in my opinion. I think that leaders can and should, like, I think even like as elders of a church, like the responsibility is to shepherd flock. And so there will be times that there will call people out or see things that need corrected. But I think that it's going to be more beneficial for people individually and personally if you ask for it, you seek it out yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like being teachable, like wanting to learn something. You look at people that have walked a path or a road that you're trying to figure out if you want to walk it, and like if they have, and there's a good example for you to follow. It didn't seem like it made sense to not ask them, and then to not like try to put into practice what they said. Like they've literally they've been there, done that. And that's the thing. So we were just trying to get as much like guidance and help as possible. So okay, that's fine. Submitting yourself to leadership though, this is why and we make such a big deal about like DNA at 614. I know other churches do it different ways, but we want to give everyone the best picture of who we are, what we believe church is, and what it means to be a part of our church, so that they can decide, like, is this a place where I feel safe and that I can like work out some of the big decisions of my life? I'm trying to navigate and figure out, explore spirituality, try to find out who this person Jesus is and how he, what he's about. Why people believe in him, why billions of people over centuries have decided to gather in place weekly, regularly to like seek this person. Like I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out, is he real? Is he like directing me in life? This seems like a place where, I might try to learn that and take the advice of the people who are like leading it and making this space. So, whether it's our church or somewhere else, that's why we're so big on like, get involved in a local church, and like be there. These are the places where like we learn to be believers and followers of Jesus.
Yeah. I want to add on, I think, to how you phrased the question was so good, because it reminded me that I think a lot of the young people that we sit with, we remind them that they are in the driver's seat of their life, obviously with the power of the Holy Spirit and submitted to leadership. But there's it's so tempting nowadays and always to just like let life happen to you. And we believe that. And so how you phrase the question too, is I think that if you're just waiting for correction, it may or may not happen. But if you are taking the initiative to make it happen, I think that's how we should approach almost every area of our life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good. I've met many people who are longing to grow, longing to press in, but they're also just sitting around waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
And there's an invitation to discern like, hey, is this church family a place that I want to open myself up to one, have the gold called out of me, but also to help correct where correction needs to come. And in singleness, oftentimes it's easy just to do what you want, to enjoy life, to twiddle your thumbs, to play video games all day, to do as you please, but there is an invitation to take the reins of your life and like, God, where are you taking me? And who can you put around me to help me as I move forward?
Yeah.
I remember, sorry, you can
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When I was young, I was 18 when I first came to 614. I think I was 19 when we first started meeting. And we met for 2 years, nearly every week at the Stoker, getting those cheese danishes at 6 in the morning.
You love those.
And me and you and Noah would sit and talk about life. Very rarely was there agenda. Rarely was there a topic coming in, but there would always be conversation. Noah and I both trusted you a ton, and you brought a perspective to us when we were single. And over those 2 years, we met our now wives, and you walked us through that whole process. But even told me to break up with Stacy a couple times.
Wow, you can say that. And trust me, that was we all were growing at that time. We were growing at that time.
There was a need that I didn't even realize that I needed in having somebody who could, one, encourage, like, hey, you're doing a great job. Like, keep going, keep pressing on. But two, like, hey, let's rethink this. And the difference it makes in life is indescribable, of having someone in your life to point you in a direction and to help you. And most of the nuances of singleness and the nuances of discerning life, it's much better to have someone walking alongside you than get good advice in this podcast. And it'd be much better to have someone that you know you can call, someone you can text, someone you can get coffee with, and actually do a journey with you and do life with you, as opposed to just hoping to hear the right answer online.
Yes.
So
yes, and that's huge. That's huge. And I didn't even realize it as a benefit when I said it, but yeah, how vital it is just to, even if there's just one person in the church that you connect with, just to walk through things together. I mean, the paradox of today is that we're more connected than ever, but people are feeling lonelier than
lonely,
ever.
Depressed.
You know what I mean? And that's just, I mean, that just, I can't say it enough. You've got to walk it out with other people, left to your own, by yourself or, with some impersonal.
Yeah, you have many teachers, but not many fathers.
Oh boy, there you go. See, that's
what
I'm talking about. That's why he's leading the college ministry.
That's right. It's the heart that I feel like so many people are missing.
Yes.
It isn't someone being told what to do, but someone like to grab your arm and walk with you a little bit and do a journey with you. And that journey inevitably for many people, not all, but many, will lead to marriage someday. And that's when the gamut of what you'll learn will be opened up to the maximum. Been married for a year and a half now, and feels like I don't know anything yet. I've learned how selfish I am, how unsure I am. I've had so many more questions than answers. But marriage, and the beauty that it is another place where having people with you is such a beautiful thing. And marriage also comes with this weird thing called dating. This thing
Can I go one step before you here for just a second? I wanted to jump in on this whole idea of mentorship real quick, especially within the body of our local church, 614 Church, is I know that a lot of people have a hard time. They want mentored by like an older woman, or man, but they don't know how. And I just thought it was important to chime in to say that it goes back to the taking initiative, right? I previously in the season of my life was like on the younger end. And now I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle where there are women younger than me and older than me. And I'll just say how refreshing it's been. Like I right now have 2 little kids and, just doing a lot. Everyone's doing a lot, but it's so the times that I find are best for me is when someone's like, hey, can I come over during nap time? Can I go with you to the park? Can I just like go in a grocery store, run with you? And like, I think that I'm not going to even think about necessarily like seeking out a ton of people younger than me, even though it's my heart. But if you just want to like please invite. And I know that this is the heart of so many other men and women in our church. There's so many other men and women that are older than probably the audience of this podcast who want to help and mentor. But they're going to need to be asked. You need to ask them and do it. And maybe don't expect it to be like, an individual coffee, but like, hey, what can I just join? Can I come to your kid's soccer game with you? Just so take the initiative and do that, because people in our church want to do that. And that's the best thing about being in a local community is because we have that. That's what I think is one of the best things about our church is the people.
And you'll figure out, when you're their age, you will figure out why it is so hard to know who to seek out or who's even interested. It's like, it's you'll see it at some point, but seek it out again.
I often hear people hesitant because they feel like they're a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not.
also-
You are not.
Yeah, that's
Right.
good. You are
Yes.
not. a
You are
burden.
not a burden.
If you can
You're
hear
not a
one
burden.
thing,
And you know
are
what?
not
And
a
you know,
burden.
like even if you ask someone and like they give you a date that's like next month or something, it's not because you're a burden. It's because like schedules were set weeks and months ago, and like it's not personal at all.
Yeah.
Like yes, we want to make it happen, but it's might be a month from now.
So good and so helpful. Thanks for interrupting there. And the inevitable conversation of dating is something that I feel like it's happening more and more in our church context, and that could just be because people are getting older and older.
But it's also great.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
the
it.
best
You
place
know
to meet
what?
people.
Here's
No,
this one from church.
absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes,
But-
if you
but
want to get
yes.
married, come to 614. Dude, it's time to step up.
I mean, no, you're not. For real. I'm not kidding. You guys, that's serious.
But yeah, for many, singleness will one day turn into dating. Some are genuinely called to singleness, which is a beautiful thing from the Lord. And that's something to be worked out with leaders. But dating isn't mentioned in the Bible.
True.
It's not talked about. It's not something that we have clear scriptural authority to give us guidance and direction on. So how do you even think about it when you think about the topic of dating, especially dating in a local church context?
I mean, my first thought is like, if people were, willing, we'll just like arrange the marriage from the church. You know what I mean? We can just, talk
I
as a leadership
actually
team.
love
we do
the
a
idea of
little-
arranged
Do a
marriage.
little raffle. I mean, like maybe you've got to be in for like a couple, like, some period of time, just so like we can see you again. We can call some things out, and then we can pray for you, and then like pray about you together. If you're both like in the kids ministry or something, then it's like man, we think about. No, I'm kidding. I mean, maybe kind of, but
So
no,
dating local church.
let's for real. Thoughts of dating in the local church. Okay, one, it's the best place to like find a wife. Yeah, bar none. That's like 100%.
What makes it that though? Why can't you meet people in your classroom or anywhere else? Why is the local church such a significant place to actually meet people that you might live the rest of your life with?
You know what? You can't actually meet people outside of your local church. I met my wife outside of my local church. So yeah, we're all for it. I think there's just tremendous benefit in meeting someone in it could just be a local church, assuming that you both are. That seeking the will of God for your life, or being a part of a community of people who are seeking Jesus, that lets you know at least like the most base foundational value, right? Like I think it's really helpful to think about, okay, what are the values that each person brings to a relationship, right? You and I have a relationship where we bring shared values, right? Now a lot of them happen to be the same, which is why we've been so close to each other over the past handful of years, right? And we're building things together. I mean, as in the church. So I think it's a big indicator of value, which you want to make sure that you're kind of matched up on at the most foundational level. You could meet people at work or at your gym or whatever, and maybe that's the value or the things that are inherent in that activity's value. Those match, but the question is like how foundational to the life that you're building is that value? That makes sense, right? Like. Yeah, I that's why I think dating in, the same local church is amazing, right? Because there are so many aligned values there kind of already, just because of the space that you're in and who you're hearing from and what values are around you. But you could also, meet people in all those other places. But local church, there are plenty of local churches in Columbus. So,
Yes.
go for it.
My first dating tip is to take a deep breath and relax, please. To relax. Because you go to coffee with someone does not mean you're going to marry them. Okay. And this is not only for two people that are going on dates, but this is also for all. This is also for all of their friends.
We went to one coffee, then we got married.
No, it's not true.
Well, but
that's
like,
not true at all.
From one coffee.
It did, and that's great. But there's plenty of other coffees that I had gone on before you that didn't. Plenty. I was kidding. That did not result in that. I just think that we, especially in the Christian culture, need to take the pressure off.
Yes,
That it is. People think that like they need to already have this idea in their head before they even go on a date with the guy or gal. So I think that first thing is that you need to like take a deep breath and have fun with it. Yes, get to know someone. Yes, be intentional, be purposeful, be respectful, all of the things. But I think I think that, yeah, in general, we just get too serious. And then we get so in our heads. It's like, well, I don't know after date number 2 if I want to spend the rest, it's like, it's okay. But I also think it's important for our friend groups and our community and the ministries, at 614 and just beyond in general need to be cognizant of that as well, to like just relax around your friends too and let them go on a couple dates and don't give them so much
That's so
pressure.
good. Stop being weird.
Yeah,
Stop being
stop
weird.
being weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
The whole
yeah,
church doesn't need to know if
definitely.
someone
Yeah.
goes to coffee and doesn't work out. That's cool.
True.
Also, I think if like one girl has like gone on coffee with a guy, doesn't mean that her friend can't go on one later. Like, I just think we need to just relax and like just.
Yeah, just like not being weird. But it's hard, right? Okay, like, if you're younger especially, but no, really at any point in life, if you're, trying to make these big decisions about your life, or, what your job will be, or kind of what's here for you this season, what might be coming in the next, it's hard to, it's hard to navigate that and think about the possibility of like someone long term being a part of all of those things too. Right? So it is very you know, engaging, if you will. It is very engaging, just like by nature. So it's I mean, yes, definitely just stop being weird, but respect it. Just like respect the season you're in. When you're single, like, you should have so much respect for that season and what's happening in your life in that season, that, you know, thinking about dating or what have you does kind of throw you for a bit, right? Like, it changes what your normal thinking might be from a day to day. But yeah, it's don't be weird, but
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. Holly, what you said I think is so important. Just the simplicity of things that it can be. We've overcomplicated everything and dramatized everything. My first date with Cece, I asked about physical boundaries. I went the whole 9 yards with her. I was like, let's talk about all these things right now. Let's figure this out. And next week, I don't know if we're getting married. And I remember we had a rough patch when we were dating. And I was like, oh, are we going to figure this out? Are we going to not? I remember telling myself, if we figure this out, it must mean we're getting married. And I was like, okay. I was like, looking back, I was like, what was I thinking? And there was just such a weight on everything I was doing, and just the freedom of like, go get a coffee, go get to know one another. Yeah. And on the same topic, why even date in the first place? The idea of dating inevitably should lead to marriage. But how do you take it from go have fun, enjoy a coffee, to I'm only doing this for the sake of discerning if you're going to be my wife or husband, without playing games at the same time? There's this analogy I heard that dating to not be married is like going shopping without an item you're buying. You're just going to look at everything, enjoy it all, walk out with 10 things you don't need. But if you go to a store, you know you need one thing, one item. You're going to go get that item, get it, and go. You have an agenda, a mission, a plan. I don't know if that analogy made sense outside of my head, but how do we think about dating in these relationships in the context of a local church, honoring the fact that it's leading to marriage without putting a ton of weight, pressure, and burden
Yeah,
on
great
it?
question. Great question. That's why, again, I think it goes back to like stewarding that time of singleness really, really well. If you steward your time of singleness well, and I don't mean like plan to get married or be in a relationship later, I mean get a real strong sense or idea of what God is doing in your life, like how he's gifted you, what you want to pursue, what you want to build with your life. Like, really think about it, be intentional about it. I tell this, to anyone who listens. I tell my younger brothers, like, you shouldn't just date. You don't date just to date or just to like spend time. Again, if that's your intent to get married, you should be able to know, especially for the guys out there, as a young man, you should know like what you're building. I'm talking kingdom wise, right? Like, you're in a local church. Where has God gifted you and like called you or given you vision to like build something for the kingdom? You got to know that, be able to communicate it, so that when you are meeting someone else and asking them what they're building and where they think God is taking them in their life, you guys can figure out if those places are aligned, or if that they're going to meet, at some point in the future, or that you would benefit working together on what of those things are, rather than apart. But it all comes back to, I think, stewarding that time of singleness really, really well. And the better you understand kind of, or you have some vision for your life, that's what's going to make dating easier to be like intentional with. You know what I mean?
I think that's really key too for kind of the part on the girl is that I think a lot of times for women, some people can fall in the trap of like, well, my life will really start or things will really start when I get married or have kids. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, that I think that it goes back to stewarding what your gifts well and stewarding those in the church and in your work and all those things. And so, yeah, that's just how we steward what God has given us and the gifts we have well. And then maybe someone will come in with that. But we don't just like start those things or start those things until we see what man God's going to bring us. That's not how it works.
Yeah. There are some people that I've met, they get in relationships and realize, oh, frick, I'm a mess.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think that's
Your
because
relationship's going to be a mess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the fruit that's in you will eventually come out for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to the idea of singleness. What are we doing with that? And just to, again, emphasize, just submit yourself to leaders, leaders that you trust, and not just like a friend who you think is wise, but leaders who are recognized that, like recognized in your church as people that are trusted, because there's a wisdom they can bring. And each person is so unique in their story, but dating is such a unique thing. So say you're in a relationship. Say you found yourself, you met the guy, you met the girl, you got the coffee went great, you took him to the park the next time, date number 2, third date, maybe gave him a kiss, all the things, and say, hey, will you be my boyfriend? Will you be my girlfriend? Whatever the whole 9 yards is. You're dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, what now? How do you have those conversations about growing towards marriage, boundaries, emotional boundaries, spiritual boundaries, physical boundaries? Like practically in dating, what does it look like to use that time as a pointer to marriage and discerning for marriage and not just having fun?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think this is the key. Again, being in a local church, find a couple that's older, like a marriage that you respect, a family that you look at and you say, I want to be like that. If I build a family with someone, like that's what I want to be, what I want to be like. And then ask them. That was the point where we started just asking people for dinner. People we respected. I was on staff at the church, so I feel like I knew, everyone at the church. And so I feel like we talked to everybody and just asked because, they were nice enough to have us. But yeah, we just wanted to find answers and try to do things as well as possible. And they all had walked the journey before us. And we reasoned that they had to have had good experiences to share, pitfalls to help us avoid, just hear their stories. I think maybe what's most pivotal, like as with a lot of things in life, from season to season, you're trying to figure out what God is saying. You know what I mean? I'm assuming you're a believer, right? Okay. You're just trying to figure out what God is saying, like where he's moving you, what he's wanting you to invest in, and talking to people that have had far more seasons like that to learn from and to hear how they reasoned through or they prayed through or they, how they sought their own leadership, their church leadership. I think that's what really helped us. So when we started it, we like just got such good feedback and we were learning so much and we were talking about things and we're putting them into practice. And then that made us just want to find, ask more questions of more people. Right. And then you kind of get caught up in this like continuous positive cycle of connecting with people who are helping you literally take the next step in your own life in the season that you're navigating. So it's talk to people who are older than you, who have already walked the road.
We've came back to that point a lot tonight.
We have. That does seem to be a theme.
I mean, yeah.
I think some
just like the phone calls.
Yes.
Numbers will be in the description.
Honestly, but for real, I don't even care. Find someone because it's just so. You know what? I think that's maybe that's what people are looking for right now, like just in our culture, they're looking for people to just like show them a way. Many teachers and not many fathers. Many teachers, not many fathers. I'm sorry. Yes, that's totally it. It's like this isn't political podcast where I can talk about fatherlessness, but that's a whole different thing.
I mean, Gen Z is considered the fatherless generation.
Okay, see, this is what I mean.
Yeah, it's not political. It's
That's even more just key, even more key.
Yeah. I think some practicals around dating, especially as it comes to boundaries. I think it's think the physical boundaries are pretty laid out in scripture. I mean, there's areas where I think if you have really direct questions, that's when you should work it out with local community. But you shouldn't be having sex before marriage. Therefore, you definitely shouldn't be having sleepovers, because definitely probably didn't,
like,
probably
like,
was like,
yeah,
I was thinking
I'm
the
glad
next thought, you shouldn't be having sleepovers.
I'm so glad you said it, but also I'm shocked that you have to say that. Like,
Yeah.
I know. No,
I get it, and I get it, and we've been there. Like, we met when we were 24, right? So great. We're like, we get it. We know what it's like to like just have freedom and be able to cross any line that you want. But come on, guys. Don't be dumb.
Yeah, I've heard it said that if you're living with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're either having sex or lying.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't know if that's true for everyone. If you're out
you
there,
can think you're the exception.
Yeah.
But
and it doesn't even go for like living together. I mean, just sleepovers. Don't do it. Too tempting. But also, I think with physical boundaries, there also needs to be emotional boundaries. I think often get overlooked, but I think they can kind of go in tandem. I mean, the things that you're not going to get undressed with someone early on and how vulnerable that is, I think it should be similar as it goes to emotional boundaries. And that's why you should have a solid group of women if you're a woman and men if you're a man around you. And so a lot of things you should be processing with them. And I think that, of course, as you are pursuing someone and looking to see if it's someone you want to marry, there will be a level of vulnerability that you will get to, but that should be very stair step and should not be all at once. I also think in dating that you need to keep living your life. I think it's tempting to just like go all in and be so excited, which is so fun. But I think in all reality, you need to keep building what you're building, keep being around guys and girls and not just hanging out with each other all the time. But I think to that end as well, I think that there needs to be at some point in the relationship, I don't think that we need to date super long to know if we're going to get married to someone. And so I think that a lot of times this also gets drawn out. So it gets really muddy because it's like, well, I've known this person for like a long time. So the emotional and physical boundaries become more and more tempting, that I think that at some point too, in a relative period of time, this season of dating is not meant to be drawn out or be forever.
Yes. I think that's one of the things that makes it so hard and makes it like such a big deal. Like, you don't need to date. Again, that's one of the big reasons about being in the local church, right? Because there are so many kind of like invisible values that are already set that everything else on top of that, or, outside of that, can be worked out. But once you align on those big things, and so you're both in a church, presumably, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, like, so where's God taking you, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that should take that much time, right? To have enough to make the decision to move forward, right? You're taking a step of faith anyway, but I mean, you could just stay busy building God's kingdom. And if there's someone that'll help you do it, more effectively and help refine you, which they definitely will, like, no matter who it is, like any two people together, like, you will be sanctified. It's just good.
Yeah. You mentioned the idea of emotional boundaries. Something that Cece and I did, I fought for really hard. One, I'm just not an emotional guy, so this was easier for me, but I wouldn't process anything emotional or vulnerable first with her.
Good idea.
And if it's not something I felt safe processing with anyone else, I definitely wouldn't process it with her, because it opened my heart up to her in a way that I wasn't opening up to the guys around me. And if I shared it with the guys around me first, it almost took the initial vulnerability out of it. And it allowed it, when I talked to Cece about it, to be less opening, damaging, and even risky, because there were men around me that I processed it, talked through it with. And that's what opened my heart up, talking to the guys, worked through it, healed a little bit. And I was like, hey, just so you know this happened. And there are some things that she never knew. And again, that was easier for me because I tend to not share anyways. Sure. But it's something that worth considering for people of, what are you sharing with your boyfriend or girlfriend? And do they actually need to know? And it goes back to the leadership thing. Like, we need to submit things like that to leaders and just good friends. Like, go get a coffee with a friend and tell them, like, hey, I'm really sad and I'm struggling.
That's part of, again, stewarding your singleness time well and cultivating community around you, right? Because you cultivate such good community around you while you have the time, and it's just on you, that when you introduce someone else into your kind of normal, rhythms of life, you still have all that other support around to help process with, so that you don't have to take it all to that one person who is new and that you don't really, know yet. You're like getting to know.
Yeah.
So,
I also think that marriage is such a gift, and there are responsibilities that husbands and wives carry that boyfriends and girlfriends don't. And so I think that it's really important to try not to cross any of those lines uh, physically and emotionally, because in my experience, there's so much more beautiful and more safe in the context of marriage. There's just so much more turmoil whenever you are dating, and you know that like tomorrow they could break up with you, and that's just, you're just like left so much more vulnerable and raw, and like that will just mess with you. But when you're in the context of marriage and you have declared in front of God and your friends and family that you have committed and committed and committed to this person for the rest of your life, you know there's a safety there. You're gonna go at it sometimes and whatnot,
it's like
but
burning the boats.
yeah,
You burn the boats. Like,
but there's a safety in it, because like like we're fighting for this, we are in this. So I think it's God's design to be vulnerable in all of the ways in the context of marriage, not before, and we need to not try to put those husband and wife responsibilities on boyfriends and girlfriends.
That's what makes dating so hard, right?
Yeah.
Because if you date for a long time, you naturally just start to put those responsibilities on someone who shouldn't bear them, and then that's where it leads to just.
Do you guys have any advice when it comes to how long is too long when it comes to dating? And is there any markers in your life that you should look for to where you're ready to even start dating in the first place? Like, how does someone know, like, okay, I think I'm ready to date? And yes, work it out with leaders, but are there any tips that you guys have seen, markers in someone's life, rhythms that they have established that be like, okay, you're in a good spot to have more open hands to this? And then how long is too long when it comes to dating?
I'll take the first one, the markers of being ready. That's what it was, right? Markers of being ready. I think it goes a lot back to the overall health. And I think a lot of us have just things that have happened to us that can be baggage carried into relationship. I think it's the best that you can add the tools and resources to work through those things when you're single, just like trauma in your past, or previous relationships, or just stuff that happened to you as a child. I think that working through those things with the Lord, with leaders, counselors, whatever, and then also I think that the fruit of your life you'll have freedom in all of these areas, and you'll be healthy, again, physically, spiritually, all the things that I think that is what I see when I see young men and women that I'm like, okay, they're ready. It's some of those things. They're rooted, they're confident, they're free because they've done the work, and they're healthy.
Yeah, those are good markers. To the second question, how long? So I think I'll just kind of put this out there because it's, other people have said it, and so I don't have to, take all the responsibility if anything
Author
wrong.
someone else.
Yes, exactly. So it's like a year, right? So you see someone in every season. That gives you a lot of time to, experience. A sufficient amount of things to figure out, like, okay, are our values aligned? Would this work? That's enough time to talk it out.
So you're saying a year?
You're saying that's what people say?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
people say.
That's what people say.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
I have said it also.
Yeah.
But I also
wasn't
say
our
other
experience.
things.
That is likely going to be very jarring for people.
1 year.
1 year. That is.
Oh my
likely
gosh, you guys, come on! And I'm not saying
Exactly.
like people say it, like these other cooler pastors who have bigger churches, like they're the ones who say it. So go on.
But I think I want to sit there for a second, because most people are probably used to, whenever I start dating, I'm going to wait till I graduate college, wait till I have a good financial standing, wait till I'm stable, ready on my feet, then I'll talk about marriage.
Yep.
And that is way longer than a year.
That's exactly what I said to myself.
Yeah. You're a freshman in college, you meet a girl, you start dating, you're 4 years bound in college.
Okay. Yeah,
but does it matter?
Got it.
And like, should you date your freshman, sophomore, junior year?
That's right.
And
This is
this is specifically for college students. Of course, young adults, it's a little bit different. They are a little bit more established, more a little bit on their feet.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the markers, I think this depends on what markers are there, right? So if you are, let's say you're in college, right? But maybe you're working to put yourself through college, and you have a good idea, if you have a really strong sense of what you want to do or where God is, moving you, like if you have that and you're like supporting yourself and, you know, you could support someone else or like build something with someone else, I I would look for that rather than your age, right? Because I know plenty of people who are 25 and 26 and 27 and older who don't know what that is, and I don't think that they'd be ready for marriage, right? Whereas if you're 18 or 19 and for whatever reason, like what it is and you're like responsible enough to not responsible enough, but yeah, like you're confident enough in the direction that you're going and that you're going to get there and you are taking the steps to actually bring that to fulfillment. I think that I would not discourage someone in that position from dating and getting married in a year if they found someone who was complementary to that vision and was also, it's not just like equally being a believer, but even in your level of intention that you approach life with, right? And so that doesn't matter your age. I think if that's there, that's the market that I would look for.
Yeah.
And if you live your life with that kind of intention, I don't think you need more than a year.
Yeah, it's good.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's going to be a paradigm shift.
Yes.
People, I
Yes.
think this whole conversation, hopefully it shifts the thoughts on dating,
Yeah.
relationships, singleness.
This is more like life, not just
it's
relationships and
it's not a
singleness.
game anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like, and
That is
it's not a game
that
anymore.
is 100% it.
Yeah,
it is not a game.
There are legitimate
Like,
consequences
Yes.
and realities that are being faced, and sometimes that means you need to sit in singleness and seek contentness in that for a little bit.
yes.
Seek these things we've talked about. Position yourself a little bit better,
Mhm.
just to be a human being, to
Yes.
walk with the Lord,
100%.
to love your friends, to love
Yes.
your family, and then from that place, open your hands. Like, okay, Father, is there someone for me?
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
it's not
And
a
with
game
that,
anymore.
that does remind me that I feel like a lot of people come to a point where they think that it might be like a bad thing to desire being married because they're like, well, I'm supposed to just like be content. So is it bad for me to desire? And I want to say that it's not a bad thing to desire. And in Psalms, I think it's Psalms 37, it talks about the Lord knowing the desires of our heart. But the verses before and after that talk about trusting God. And so I think that it's not an or, it's an and. It's a yes, you can desire this and you can vocalize that to the Lord and all of it, and you can live your life surrendered and open-handed to the Lord's will.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing when you're and it's a struggle. I'm not saying it's easy, but I don't think that just because you have a desire and it's not being met right now, you are just like not content and you need to just put that desire away. It's okay
Yes.
to have that desire.
Yes. Well said.
And I will say, and this is probably for people as you get a little bit older, but it's okay also to grieve unmet expectations with the Lord. I think that as people get older and they thought, well, I was going to graduate college with a fiance or something, that's not happening to you. I think that it's okay to grieve with the Lord unmet expectations again, and living your life open-handedly and surrendered to the Lord's will and knowing that he knows best and he's taking care of you.
That's so good. As we put a close to this conversation, if you guys could reflect on the conversation and emphasize one point that was made for each of you, what would you each emphasize just to leave people with an emphasis on something? As you think, I'll start. I will put the note of submitting yourself to leaders. I think that it positions you rightly to have people help you work it all out, and someone to ask questions to, someone to have in your corner. Personally, it's where I've seen so much fruit in my life as well. So there is a bias on my end of leaders being there, available, and present to answer hard questions in season. So for me, it's submit yourself to leaders, and if you don't know what that looks like, just go ask them, like, hey, I want to like learn, but I don't know how to do this. Yeah. It's not weird. It's not awkward. Yeah. And it's well worth the time. And especially at 614, come grab me, come grab Stacy, come grab Holly, and just ask, like, hey, how do I do this? And you guys can point them to someone that might be well for them. And
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing to emphasize would be at any stage in your life, whether you are single or you are dating or you are married or whatever, like no matter who you are, you have got to spend your time trying to determine what God is doing in your life. There's nothing more important than you trying to figure out what God is doing in your life and investing in it. If he's gifted you to play instruments, then like really develop your worship gift. If he's gifted you to teach, then really invest in your teaching and learning. If you're considering a job, maybe you're in college and you're trying to think about what your first job out of school is going to be, like getting a sense of where he's leading you. I think that's kind of the bedrock foundation for everything else that comes on top. Dating and marriage, your career, where you live, et cetera, how you spend your time.
That's great.
Yeah. And mine would be, after you have spent time with the Lord trying to discern where he's taking you and you have submitted yourself to leadership and you are ready to date, it is to relax. Guys, ask the cute girl you've had a crush on and you've noticed, ask her to coffee.
Yeah, because someone else is going to.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose her.
Yeah.
So,
and girls, don't overthink it. Get coffee with anyone.
Yeah.
It's okay to get coffee with anyone. So go date and have fun. And again, in the church is one of the best places to meet people. So I think that we in our local church need to create a healthy dating community. So don't make it weird. Have fun.
And you don't have to tell everyone that you're going on a date with someone.
Yeah.
You're like, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Don't be weird.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you remember one thing, don't be weird.
Don't be weird.
But
Out.
yeah, Stacy, Holly, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Sure. I trust that this will be something that a lot of people can hold on to, learn from, grow in. I hope you guys get questions. I'm sure I will, but thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.